spilling across the room and reflecting off the glass shelves and wooden furniture.
And put it through real-world challenges to see.
It started with a
take its first wobbling poolings on its own.
Fushigidane doesn't drink water the way other Pokémon do. Instead, this pool would allow it to...
Today, I'm gonna find out what it would actually be like to raise a Pokémon in the real world. But not just any Pokémon. This time, I'm starting with Fushigidane, from a tiny newborn all the way to its final evolution, Fushi Gibbana.
I'm gonna feed it, train it, build real habitats, and put it through real-world challenges to see if a Pokemon like this could truly survive and grow alongside humans.
But unlike most Pokemon stories, this one didn't start with a Pokemon. It started with a seed. At first glance, it didn't look special at all. Just a palm-sized bulb resting in a shallow wooden planter on my desk. Pale green, slightly warm to the touch, with faint vein-like patterns running across its surface.
If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd probably assume it was some kind of exotic plant experiment.
I placed the planter near the window so it could get natural sunlight throughout the day.
Morning light was soft and golden, spilling across the room and reflecting off the glass shelves and wooden furniture.
The room itself was quiet, just the hum of electronics and the distant noise of traffic outside. And after hours of waiting, right as the sun dipped lower and the shadow stretched across the floor, the soil cracked.
A tiny green head emerged, followed by 4 stubby legs. The bulb on its back.
It was smaller than I expected, barely taller than my hand, with smooth green skin, wide red eyes.
For a few seconds, it just stood there, frozen, like it wasn't sure if it was allowed to exist yet.
Then it blinked, took a shaky step forward, and sneezed, releasing a puff of pollen into the air.
I didn't rush it. I let Fushigidane take its first wobbling poolings on its own.
The floor beneath it was cool tile, contrasting with the warm sunlight pouring in from the window.
It sniffed the air, gently nudged the planter with its nose, and slowly began to explore its immediate surroundings. After a short burst of curiosity, the energy ran out fast. Fushigidane curled up beside the plant.
So I carefully lifted it and placed it into a small glass container lined with soft cloth and dry leaves to keep it comfortable.
The container sat on a low table surrounded by houseplants and natural wood decor, making it feel less like a cage and more like a nursery.
But while it was asleep, there was something important I needed to do. If this Pokémon was going to grow up healthy, strong, and stable, it needed more than a box.
It needed a proper habitat, one that matched its nature as both a grass-type and poison-type Pokémon.
I started with a large fish tank and placed it near a wall where it would receive indirect sunlight for most of the day.
The base was layered with nutrient-rich soil mixed with sand and small stones for drainage.
I wanted this environment to feel alive, something that could support a Pokémon that draws strength from both the earth and sunlight.
The habitat was divided into 3 interconnected zones. The first was a forest section, dense, humid, and shaded.
I added layers of soil, patches of moss, small ferns, and pieces of bark arranged to create tunnels and hiding spots. Thin beams of light filtered through the leaves from above, creating a soft cinematic contrast between shadow and green glow.
This area was designed for exploration, rest, and stealth. Important traits for a Pokémon that relies on positioning and patience.
Next came the open meadow zone. This area was brighter with shorter plants, wide patches of grass, and smooth stones warmed by overhead lighting.
The color palette here was lighter, vibrant greens mixed with warm yellows.
This would be where Fushigidane could absorb sunlight, stretch, and slowly strengthen the bulb on its back through photosynthesis.
And finally, at the center of the tank, I built a nutrient pool.
Not deep water, just a shallow, mineral-rich basin surrounded by damp soil and glowing plant roots. Soft light reflected off the surface, casting gentle ripples onto the glass walls of the tank.
Fushigidane doesn't drink water the way other Pokémon do. Instead, this pool would allow it to absorb nutrients through its skin.
Once everything was set, the terrarium felt less like an enclosure and more like a living ecosystem.
With the habitat complete, I gently picked up the little Pokémon as it began to stir from its nap.
Its eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the light, and the bulb on its back glowed just a bit brighter. I placed Fushigidane into its new home. At first, it didn't move. Then, cautiously, it stepped forward.
It brushed against the forest plants, sniffed the damp soil, and carefully tested the stones beneath its feet.
It spent a long time in the shaded areas, hiding behind leaves and peeking out like it was making sure nothing in this world was going to attack it.
Eventually, curiosity won. It wandered into the meadow zone, basking in the light.
Then, it approached the Nutri, hesitated for a moment, and slowly stepped in.
Instead of panic, it relaxed, eyes half closed, as if it instinctively understood what the pool was for.
At that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't just a Pokémon surviving. It was adapting.
And this was only the beginning.
Because if Fushigidane was going to grow into something powerful enough to one day become Fushi Gibbon, the real challenges, training, feeding, and facing the dangers.
And none of us were ready for what was coming next.
Once Fushigidane had fully settled into its habitat, a routine slowly began to form.